Hello everyone, welcome to the course Geotechnical Engineering 2. So in this module number 2 and lecture number 7, we will try to discuss some other in situ tests that are there in soil investigation. Okay. So coming to the course outline, so we have discussed earlier what are the different methods of exploration and what do we mean by exploration, and then some of the methods of soil investigation that also we have discussed. And finally we are left over with the geophysical investigation, okay, geophysical exploration, and then the preparation and planning of a soil investigation report. So we will try to understand more in detail in these lectures. Okay. So in the previous lecture, we have tried to understood from all the in situ tests, we have both laboratory as well as field tests. So if you look at the field test, we have discussed the penetrometer test as well as the plate load test, and in the previous class we have discussed the pressure meter test as well as vane shear test. Okay. So today we will be understanding the geophysical methods. What do we mean by geophysical methods? Okay, so all these tests, that is the penetrometer test, the pressure meter test, the vane shear test, and the plate load test, all these are performed on the ground, and there is certain excavation taking place to determine the soil properties. Okay, to know the soil type, certain excavation is being done. That means either we are excavating a pit sort of arrangement in the plate load test, or we are digging a borehole and then we are placing some amount of probe or vane or anything, either in vane shear test or pressure meter test or penetrometer test. But in this case of this geophysical methods, we will try to understand how the properties or the soil type is analyzed without any excavation. Okay, from the ground surface itself we try to understand using this geophysical methods the soil type. Clear? Let us try to understand more in detail about this. Okay, so what do we mean by geophysical exploration? So but in general, what do we mean by geophysics? Okay, so if you look at here, imagine this is a small circular way of representation here. Imagine this is geology, okay, and this is some mathematics and physics. Okay, so the combination of geology, that means related to earth, and using the concepts of physics as well as applying certain math, okay, for the evaluation of soil type is nothing but geophysics. Okay, so simply I can say that using the concepts of physics and mathematics, okay, I apply these concepts on this geology, so that to understand the soil type is nothing but geophysics. Clear? So let us try to understand more in detail. So simply I have stated that it is an experimental physics dealing with the earth. Okay, it is an experimental physics dealing with the earth. As I stated, we need to apply the basics of physics or physics in this geology with the help of certain math. Okay, so how we can state in our terms means exploration of the earth. Okay, exploration of this earth, I need to explore the soil type. Okay, analyzing the physical properties of the materials by physics and math concepts. Okay, that means we need to analyze the earth based on the physics and mathematical concepts in understanding the physical properties of this soil. Clear? Now, since this does not require any physical parameters, we don't need to dig the soil. Okay, we don't need any manpower for excavation of soil. Now, whatever boring that we are doing as well as the test pits what we are digging, these may give some definite results. Okay, but they are time consuming and expensive because they require certain manpower, excavation, so it requires all these things. So that is why it is time consuming as well as somewhat expensive. Okay, but if you look at here, the subsurface conditions are known only to the bore test or test pit location. That means these subsurface conditions whatever are there, that can be known only at the borehole. Okay, these can be known only at this particular borehole where I am digging. Okay, if I am digging a borehole and I am excavating a test pit, at that location only I can know the conditions of the soil. Clear? But and the subsurface conditions between the boring need to be interpolated or estimated. But if I need the data of a certain location, say this entire area where I am standing is a certain rectangular shape of land. So at this particular location I have dug a borehole and I have obtained the properties. That means I can obtain the surface conditions at this particular level only. I cannot know the subsurface conditions of somewhere at a location 1 meter or 10 meters okay. So this is the one drawback here. So in case of geophysical methods, these are quicker as well as cheaper, and these cover the entire area. And that means we can clearly obtain the subsoil conditions from this point to any other required locations. Okay, that means if I want the locations or subsoil conditions of entire area, then I can clearly find out those using this method. So that is why this is one of the advantageous method. Okay. Now, furthermore, the results of the geophysical testing, however, are less definitive, and these require some subjective interpolation. So that is till here. So let us now continue. So what do we mean by geophysical method? That means in general, it generally indicate the general boundaries of drastically dissimilar layers. That means there may be, since the soil is non-homogeneous, there will be different levels here. Okay, that means there at different levels there will be different soils. This dissimilarity in the soil can be observed. Okay, now so there are two different methods how we use this geophysical methods. One is the seismic or refraction method, the other one is the resistivity method. Okay, the first one is the seismic or refraction method and the other one is the resistivity method. So we will try to understand these methods and how we evaluate the layer types, okay, or how we evaluate the soil type, okay, at any subsoil level. Now coming to the seismic refraction method. So the concept behind this is that generally a shock wave propagates through an elastic medium with a certain velocity. That means whenever, if we know, any shock wave will try to propagate through any sort of material with a certain velocity. Now so it is given by, in general, V is equals to m by rho whole power 1 by 2, where m is the modulus and rho is the mass density, okay, of that particular material. Now when we are talking about the wave velocities, whenever any wave is propagating, we may state that in case of soils it ranges from 150 to 300 meter per second, and in case of rocks it ranges from 1500 to 3000 meter per second. Okay, so this is the general idea in case of soils as well as rocks, whenever any wave is propagating through soil or rock. Furthermore, the response of a shock wave, okay, the response of the shock wave emanating from the source are picked by the geophone at the known distance. This means that, imagine there is a ground level, this is a ground level, and there is some source material here from which the waves are propagated. This is the source point. This is a source point from which the waves are propagating to the soil, and these will be whatever, let us say there is some wave that is propagated and it is traveling. So there will be waves that will be recorded at this particular other points. Okay. Okay, so these are placed at a certain location, that means at a known distance, and we try to obtain the velocity at this point. The source is releasing some amount of wave and it is recorded at the other point, so that we can understand the velocity now. Okay, so we will try to understand more in detail about this now. So as I've stated, initially there will be a source point or an energy source from which the velocity or the wave will propagate with a certain velocity. Because there are different layers, let us say there is an unsaturated soil here and there is a saturated soil along with certain water level. Since there are two different materials, what happens whenever the wave is propagating through this material, the velocity will differ, because we know that from for one particular material the wave velocity will be different. Okay, the same case is applied here. Imagine initially through this particular unsaturated soil a velocity of 1000 fps is traveling, but in this case, other case of layer, it is 5000 now, and finally there is a bedrock, and let us say the wave propagating through this bedrock is having some 15000 fps. Okay, that means there is a change in velocity for different levels or different type of material. that we need to understand. So what is happening once the source is releasing some amount of energy wave, so that is recorded at a certain known distances where the detectors are placed at those distances. So this wave that is sent through the source is recorded at this detectors placed at a known distance. Depending upon this, we may obtain at different lengths or at different areas. Okay, by placing these detectors we can obtain the soil type just by placing the source as well as the detector. Clear? We will try to understand more in detail now. So if you look at this particular diagram here, at this particular point there is a point P which is my impact point or the source point, okay, from which the energy wave is propagated. Okay, so this is my source point P or the impact point from which the energy wave is propagated. Let us say this is layer 1, this is layer 2, and this is layer 3. Okay, there are three different layers. Let us say there are three different layers in a particular soil. Because soil is non-homogeneous, I have considered three different layers here. So whenever any particular wave passes through the first one, okay, let us say I have released the waves and I have placed at a certain distance of x naught one detector, and at a certain distance of x1 from the source I have placed another detector, and at a certain point x2 I have placed another detector. So these three are nothing but detectors which are also known as geophones. Okay, which are also known as these geophones. So what is happening? The wave that is propagating through this region is recorded at this particular detector. That means the wave passing through the topmost soil may be detected. So this also varies with respect to time. Okay, so after certain amount of time, if I look at the geophone that is played at x2, so I may obtain the other wave that is propagating here. Okay, and in a similar way I will record the other thing that is recorded at the detector at x2. So let us say the recording at the first layer be v1. Okay, let v2 be the velocity of flow. Since it is v1, since the soil is same, this path along which it travels and it is recorded here, it is v1, and say the wave that is traveling here, it is v1 only, because it is also passing through the same soil, but later it is entering and then it is traveling to the other soil of different material, so its velocity is v2 here, and after certain amount of this will be recorded. Because of the change in time we can obviously understand this velocities, and similarly let v3 be the velocity of flow through the other layer. So based on these, okay, based on these velocity of flows v1, v2, v3, and at a known distances placed, that is x0, x1 and x2, we can obtain using this particular formula the depth of the layers. Let us say for our understanding, as I have represented here, this is h1. Let us imagine this h1 is an unknown depth of this layer 1, and this is h2, the unknown depth of layer 2, and this is h3, that is the unknown depth of layer number 3. Okay, so using this expression we can simply find out our h2, which is 0.5 h1 plus x2 by 2 into root or v3 minus v2 by v3 plus v2. Similarly, we can obtain the depth of this h1 also, layer 1 as well as layer 2, in this manner. Okay, kindly try to make a note of this. Okay, so let us proceed to the other one now. So coming to the main important thing here, there may be somewhere break observed in the curve. The break in the curve represents the point of simultaneous arrival of preliminary and refracted waves, and that distance is known as the critical distance. So let us say, imagine there is a wave passing in this manner, okay, wave passing in this manner, and imagine there is a void here. Imagine this entire thing is a soil and there is a wave passing here. So obviously there will be refraction taking place. So obviously one particular wave may pass and it is recorded at the geophone here. Okay, so this wave is now refracted also. So obviously there will be a small lag, and after that also there will be a, the refracted wave will try to get detected at this particular geophone. So whenever this lag in between is there, that means the distance of this particular thing can be understood. So that is nothing but critical distance. So the lag whatever is there can be understood as the critical distance. Clear? Now, so the wave velocity through this rock layer is generally, whenever the wave velocity through the rock layer is generally greater than wave through the soil layer, as we have understood from the previous slides. Because in case of rock, the velocity is generally 1500 to 3000 meter per second, but in case of soil, it is 150 to 300 meter per second. So it is generally very much greater compared to the wave velocity in the soil. Okay. Furthermore, this seismic refraction method is a quickest method, that is why it is very fast, and this method is reliable in establishing the profile of the different strata. Since as we have seen here, we can understand the profiles of different layers using this method. Okay. Now, let us try to understand some of the different types of materials that are there for various layers, and these are determined with the help of these velocities. Okay, by comparing the velocity, there are certain standard velocities, so we can compare this with these standard velocities. Let us look at this. So for different type of soil, say granite, sandstone, shale, hard rock, loose gravel, loose sand in dry condition as well as wet condition. So these are some of the standard values of velocity of flow in meter per second. Okay, just try to understand them. Now, proceeding to the other part, the limitations of this particular type of experiment. So this method cannot be used if the hard layer with a greater seismic velocities or softer layer of smaller seismic velocity are generally there. Okay, so for such type of cases we cannot use this particular type of method. Okay, and then this cannot be used in certain regions. So what type of regions it cannot be used? Say for example a concrete covered area. Okay, a concrete covered area, as well as in case of frozen zones, in case of irregular water tables or any strata. In such cases this cannot be used. Okay, and then this method also requires a sophisticated approach, and then it is comparatively having a costly equipment. However, the method of carrying is cheaper, but the equipment cost is comparatively high. Okay, and furthermore, for proper interpretations we need expert services. Okay, for proper interpretation of the results or getting the actual depth of the layers without any erroneous result, we need the expert services here. Okay, so these are the limitations. So let us now try to understand the resistivity method. Okay, the second method, that is the resistivity method. So in case of resistivity method, it is generally based on the measurement as well as the recording changes in some mean resistivity case. Okay, that means we will try to understand by passing some amount of current through the soil, and then we will try to record that at a particular different intervals. Okay, that means just look at this definition here. It is a measurement as well as recording changes in the mean resistivity, how it is changing. Okay, we will try to look at it. Now, the other thing is that the electrical conductivity of the soil layer depends upon the concentration of ionized salts present in the soil pores. That means if there is any particular type of soils, obviously it will have some amount of voids in it. So there may be some amount of this ionized salts present in it. Okay, so this amount of current that is passed may get actually influenced by these ionized salts. Okay, now, so apart from that, each soil has its own resistivity, that too depending upon the water content, compaction and composition. That means, as I have stated, any type of soil will have different resistivities. So whenever we are passing any current through it, obviously we can understand the resistivity of that particular type of soil, and we can understand what type of soil that is present at that particular level. So this generally varies with the help of this water content that is present, as well as the compaction of the soil that is happening, as well as the composition of the soil that is present. Okay, now, so this is the diagram that I have mentioned here. So imagine this is the ground level here. Okay, so where at point A and B and M and N there are this electrodes placed, and then at these points, first from the outer ends the current is passed, and at the M and N location it is received. Okay, so these are generally placed at equal distances. Okay, let us look at it more in detail now. So this is generally, this electrical resistivity is generally low for saturated sills, just try to make a note of them, and it is high for loose dry gravels, okay, or solid rock. And then in case of dense sand, in case of dense sand with few voids and little water content, imagine there is a dense sand and it is having very little voids and little water content, in such cases it is having high resistivity, it may range from 100 to 1000 ohm meter. Okay, and the other thing is that in case of soft saturated clays and organic deposits, the resistivity is relatively low. Okay, it will range from say 5 to 150 ohm meter only. Okay, now in case of homogeneous isotropic material, the resistivity is represented in terms of the mean resistivity here. Okay, so the mean resistivity is given by this expression, that is rho, it is denoted by rho, is equals to 2 into 3.14 d into E by I. Okay, that means here rho is the mean resistivity, its units is ohm meter, and d is the distance between the electrodes. Okay, we are placing these electrodes at different levels. Okay, we are making sure that these are placed at equal intervals, so d is the distance, and then E is the potential drop between the outer electrodes. Okay, there are outer electrodes A and B, as we have seen in the previous diagram. So the potential drop between these two is measured and it is denoted by E, and I is the current flowing through the electrodes, okay, in amperes. Now let us try to understand the procedure. As I have stated, we will be using 4 equally spaced electrodes. If you look at this diagram, we are placing 4 equally placed electrodes, that is A, M, N and B. Okay, so these are equally placed at a distance d of each on the ground surface. And then what we are trying to do, we are trying to pass an electric current I through the outer electrodes that are present, that is at A and B. Okay, we are passing the current, and then whatever that is induced here is actually measured at M and N. Okay, it is measured at M and N. That means, as I stated here, the electrical current I is passed into the ground through the end electrodes, and then the induced potential is measured at M and N. That means the in between interior electrodes. Okay, now then after carrying out this experiment, we will repeat the same procedure by changing the spacings. Okay, now finally we mark the change, whatever that change that is there in the potential. This indicates the presence of an stratum of different resistivity. Since we are carrying out this experiment at different intervals, at some point of time, because of this change in resistivity, we will understand that there is a different soil that is present, because each soil will have its own resistivity. Okay, now let us try to understand the limitations of this experiment also. So in general, this is capable of detecting only the strata. It is capable of detecting only the strata having different electrical resistivity. Okay, if there is same type of soil but in between there are intermediate thing, then it is very much difficult. It is only limited to the strata having different electrical resistivity only. Okay, now furthermore, the results are considerably influenced by surface irregularities. If there are any surface irregularities also, that may affect this type of recorded readings. Okay, and as well as if there is any wetness of the strata, then also it is difficult. And then the electrolyte concentration of the ground water, that means if there is a groundwater that is passing at a certain depth, so because of the electrical resistivity of that ground, okay, it may also get affected, so that the resistivity what we are measuring may be altered. Okay, now the other thing is that as the resistivity of the different strata at the interface changes gradually and not abruptly as assumed, that means we are assuming that it will change abruptly, but if it case it changes gradually, then it is not acceptable. Okay, and the interpretation becomes very much difficult in such aspects. Okay, apart from that, we have, as in the previous case also, the expert services are required. The expert services are required here also. Okay, and this method is extremely useful for the determination of the average conditions in different strata up to a depth of 30 meter. So this method can be utilized full-fledgedly up to a depth of 30 meter only. And then it is very rapid as well as economical for preliminary investigations. Okay, we have three phases of investigations, but in case of preliminary investigations this is quite useful as it is rapid as well as economical. Okay, now furthermore, coming to the last topic of our lecture, that is the soil investigation report. Ultimately, after understanding the soil exploration, the methods of soil exploration, and then the different methods or the tests that are carried out in the field to understand the soil that is present at that particular location, we need to prepare a report. Okay, we need to prepare a report and we need to submit this to the engineer so that construction can be taken place. Okay, so let us look at what exactly is there in this investigation report. So the first one is the introduction. That means it gives scope to the investigation. That means why we need to carry out this soil investigation at that particular site. We need to give the details of the particular site. And then description of the proposed structure. So if I am constructing a structure at this location, I need to give a description of this constructed structure in this particular location. Okay, and the location as well as geological conditions at the site, as well as the geological conditions at this site. Okay, this is the description of the proposed structure. After introduction we give the description of the proposed structure, and later we give the details of the field exploration program. That means indicating the number of borings that we are placing. If there is a particular site, I may place n number of borings. If I am taking a borehole, okay, I need to indicate the number of borings that are there and their location as well as the depth at which I am taking the boring. Okay, these have to be indicated in the report. So after indicating these also based on the field exploration, we need to give the details of the methods of exploration. We need to give how the exploration procedure has been taken place. Okay, there may be n number of boreholes, and at some instances I may use some sort of techniques, and at other cases I may use the different sort of technique. Okay, so we need to mention the method of exploration also in this report. So this is regarding here. Apart from that, we try to give a general description of the subsoil conditions. Okay, we need to give the general observations of this subsoil conditions as obtained from the in situ test. So whatever in situ test that we are doing, we need to give a general description in this report. Okay, so how we do this? We may give this data based on the tests that are performed, say standard penetration test, cone penetration test, either static or dynamic. Okay, or a pressure meter test, or by using a geophysical methods what we have discussed. So using any of these tests, we try to obtain the soil types and we need to give the subsoil conditions data. Okay, and then the details of the laboratory test conducted. So based on the test that are performed in the laboratory, because we are collecting the sample from this particular site location and we are taking them to the laboratory for testing. So after testing we are obtain certain index as well as engineering properties. So all these have to be mentioned in this report. Okay, now the other thing is the depth of the groundwater table as well as the changes of the water table level must be mentioned. That means we need to indicate at this constructed or proposed constructed site what are the ground levels that are present as well as the depth of water that is present below the ground level. Okay, and apart from that we will try to indicate the changes in this water level here also. Okay, and then furthermore we need to obtain the discussions on whatever results that we obtain. We need to indicate them whenever I am submitting a report to the client. I need to give them clearly that what is the soil type. I need to discuss on this particular aspects of the soil, whether the proposed structure is suitable for this site or not, that I have to mention. So all these discussions must be mentioned here. And then recommendations. Okay, I need to give some recommendations like the bearing capacity of the soil, how much load this soil can take. All these will be mentioned here. That means say the allowable bearing pressure type, the type of foundation for the structure. Okay, that means what type of foundation is suitable for this type of soil. Clear? That should be mentioned. And then I have to make the conclusions. Finally I have to make the conclusions from all the findings that I have, all the findings that I have, and then I need to mention them in some silent points along with the limitations. Okay, I need to mention them with some silent points. So in the conclusion, I need to mention the silent points based on all the information that I have. Okay, and then I need to mention the limitations also along with it. Okay, so that is regarding the entire process or step by step details that are to be mentioned in the soil investigation report. Okay, so that's it for today. So I have mentioned some of the assignment questions as usually. Try to understand these questions and try to make a note of them on your own for your clear understanding. Okay. So in the upcoming lecture, we will try to discuss the module 3 or the unit 3, that is the slope and its stability. We'll understand what do we mean by slope and what do we mean by stability and what is its purpose or need in our civil engineering aspect. And as a geotechnical engineer, what do we consider in it? Okay, we'll try to understand them in the upcoming lecture. So thank you for today's lecture. I hope you all have understood this particular lecture. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.